One of the things that I love about Geo is it's incredibly flexible. There's so many different things that you can do from this position. Compared to something like Front, where you've got different builds that you can do and make different units, it doesn't really change your role. That's where Geo is really different. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at this game right here, where we have got a pretty cool opening that will allow you to take advantage of Geo economically. And the game that we're playing here is up against some pretty strong players. We've got Seduce Your Aphis up here, he's OS 45, and then we've got Platinum Blonde, who's OS 35 in the opposite Geo position. And that's quite important just simply because we're really going to be playing against this enemy C player, because unfortunately towards our north player, or our C player up here, is outmatched significantly. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with the build order, then we're going to get through to this game. So let's get to it. Okay, so getting into the build order, it's your standard opening. We're doing a 3 mechs walk on the Geo spot, which is different from a 2 mechs opening. We'll speed it up a little bit here. You can see that I've utilized a blueprint here just to make sure I've got everything exactly where I want it. This is quite important because when it comes to the Geo positioning of your base is very, very significant. Just a single pixel's difference can mean being able to get on time on something or something not getting on time. So we open up with our 3 wind turbines, of course following that same rule where we add more in if the wind is low. Here we've got about 15 wind, so it's not too bad. We're going to open up with Lazarus here. Now, the idea behind this opening, and I want to credit Graceful and Aria for this one, because they're both kind of like, I've been picking their brains a little bit. Graceful, I've just been watching his replays. Aria, I've been asking a lot of questions, but just to explain a couple of things, what we're going to be doing here is actually looking to steal away rocks from Front. So apparently this is a fine thing to do. I know I talked about it in another one of my videos, but where I said it was a bit cheeky. Apparently it's not even cheeky. It's quite accepted for Geo to come away and do that. So that's what we're going to look to try and take advantage of here. Now, of course, this is a controlled environment where we're looking at a build order. So I'm just going to go on the low side of things. We're just going to take these 200 rocks here. In the game that we actually played, we got a lot more than 200 metal from the rocks, but that's what it's essentially about, looking to try and do that. So we've opened up with the 3 Lazarus, 2 to the close trees, 1 to the far trees, and 1 to the front. Coming out with our construction bot, they're going to drop the blueprint down and then move over towards the mechs. Of course, we can always hand off this constructor if our C asks for it, which they normally do if they're on the better side. And then this guy's going to come out, he can assist with some reclaiming. So we'll speed it up a little bit here. Nothing really changes other than the wind speed, and you can see the wind speed is doing absolutely lovely, which means our geo timing, and whoa, let's pause right here because we've got ourselves a blueprint. So I've been really working on my blueprints lately, and I've been loving it. So one of the things that I find myself doing is I'll put down the blueprint like this, and then I don't actually build it with that constructor. So we'll put it down with this constructor, but we'll tell this constructor to actually guard the other one. And then that way we can build the things when we want in the order that we want, and we just know exactly where we need to put them. So let's continue watching. We'll slow it down a little bit here. This blueprint is very, very specific. So shout out to Graceful for this one because it's his blueprint. So just to go over it, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 nanos that are all going to be coming down immediately. You can see we've blocked ourselves here, so still need to work a little bit on that blueprint. Commander's going to throw down an E-storage as soon as the geothermal's finished. This is incredibly important. We need a lot of energy in this build because we're going to be taking advantage of our allies' T2. The idea is simple. Instead of us building our own T2, we are going to be purchasing it and flying it in, drop shipping it in right here in between, and this allows us to get our really strong economy online quickly. Of course, I would not recommend this if you've got a weak front. So what do I mean by a weak front? If you've got your lower level players at the front, probably not a good idea because you're going to need some sort of assistance up there, whether that's Mausers, whether that's Quakers, whether that's a Banisher. You get units in here at about 7 minutes 30, 8 minutes, somewhere around that timing. So yeah, just best to follow that rule generally. And by the same token, if you see a strong enemy player on the front, it might be a good idea to not do this. But from here, so we go into the 4 nanos, we put down our 2 storages, and you can see our energy is starting to bank up here. I've almost been tempted to go into a 3rd storage just because it's so important in this build to have energy, not metal. Metal is not the cap. So one of the things that we're doing here is we're not eating our bot lab. And the reason why that is because if we take a look at the bot lab, you'll see it costs 500 metal. And 500 metal turns out to be almost exactly the same as a T2 con and a transport. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pretend that we've sucked this metal up. We've given 420 over here. We've given 80 over here. We've got ourselves a transport that's sitting, waiting for that T2. And when it comes to the timing on this T2, it will really depend on the quality of your backline and how well they know their build order, how good they are when it comes to knowing their build, I think, is essentially it. So I've seen T2 cons come in as early as like 3 minutes 50. I've seen them come in at 4:50, and it can really vary. And sometimes you get them at 6 minutes, and you know, your mileage may vary. Obviously, it's very much dependent on them, but you obviously help them out by sending them metal. You can also send them more metal and then just ask them to send it back, and then that way they can get their T2 lab up even faster. It's a little bit of a strategy that some people might call commie. Anyway, so from here, just to explain it out a little bit further, we've got our 4 nanos here. These are going to be responsible for building 1, 2, 3 of these mexes, as well as this advanced geo. On top of that, we've also got our 2 nanos here, which are going to be responsible for building this mex and this one out here. So we're going to be very intentional with how we play this. We've also now put down 6 wind turbines just because we've got a bit of idle time here while we wait for that con to fly in. And as soon as that con flies in, we're going to blow up our commander. And you'll see we accidentally make a little bit of a mistake here. We lose one of our Lazarus, and that's okay. It's not a huge deal for us. And magically, you're going to see a con just appear, because that's about the best I could do it when it comes to these controlled environments. I've just cheated and given myself a con. So we've thrown down the 2 blueprints just to emulate that, and then, you know, we've got the transport that's flying off somewhere here. But from here, the idea is that we want to get our 3 metal extractors up as quickly as we possibly can. So these 4 are going to work on this one, these 2 are going to work on here, and you can see this is at 5 minutes 20, and this is a perfectly reasonable time to be getting your con. You can even get it earlier in a lot of the games I've seen, depending on how much metal you're able to give over. So we've gone 1, 2, and 3. Now keep in mind, these guys pay themselves off incredibly quickly. Like in about 70 seconds is what they're paying themselves off in. So it's important that you try and prioritize getting them up before you get up the advanced geo, just because by the time you get your T2 lab up, they're almost going to have paid for themselves. So it just makes total sense here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we switch over these nanos over to this 4th advanced mex right as this construction turret comes through. We're also going to bring the construction bot out. Another thing that I've been doing as well is after I've got this mex down, or even a little bit before it, I'm putting a radar out here just with the construction bot. Incredibly important for us to do that after we've got that T2 lab down, of course. But you can see the timing right here, about 6 minutes. And the struggle that we've got here is metal. So what we're going to do is we're going to play around. We played around with our slider there. We probably shouldn't have done that. So we need to be sucking up all of our metal so we can suck up our metal from our storage. But you can see that's going to absolutely destroy us when we do that. So we messed it up a little bit right there. It's probably a bit dangerous to be eating that last storage. But anyway, the issue that you've got here is just metal, really. And you can see it's 6:30, and we're now able to complete all 4 of our T2s. And that allows us to really just, you know, begin pushing off from here. If you think about it from the perspective of another Geo player, okay, like if we look over here, they've probably got their T2 lab up. There's probably a Banisher that's in queue, or at least starting to move towards the front, or maybe a couple of Mausers. They've got their first Geo and their 1, 2, 3, 4 mexes. None of them have been upgraded yet. They haven't handed out any T2s yet. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, we're now just getting our T2 up. And you got to remember that the income difference between these two, you're talking 9.2 metal versus 2.3. This is a massive difference, not to mention all of these energy converters, which are now working absolutely overtime because of the advanced geothermal. So now that's going to add you an extra 16 metal. It's just a huge way that you can get ahead in the geo spot. And if you were to play in this position, so here you can see our first unit's coming out, 717. We'd now use our transport to take this guy up towards the front, because if the Banisher's up here, it's a bit of a slow crawl coming forward. And we're now able to counter that Banisher or counter those Mausers, whatever it is. So that's the idea behind this strategy. And then from here, there's a lot of different ways that you can play it, but that's the opening. The core of this strategy is what you see right here. Let's jump into a game and take a look at some of the other little techniques I've found that I think might actually make a lot of sense from the geo position. Okay, so we're starting off with this game. So obviously I've already introduced the players, the build, the concept. You understand the idea. So let's take a look at it in action here. So we start off with our 2 mexes. We put down our plan here, and the idea is that we've got everything towards the edge of our blueprint. I think there's definitely a world where this bot lab could be on the other side here, just so it's a little bit closer to these trees. And to be honest, it's probably the right call to do, but I didn't do that here. I said, you know what, we'll just respect the blueprint. Anyway, just to talk a little bit about the other side. So we need to take advantage of our best players, and we also need to make sure that we do everything that we can to squash the best enemy players, because they're going to be looking to try and find any way that they can win. And this position right here is arguably the best position to actually win from. I thought it was front, It turns out it's not actually front. I genuinely think it is this position, just simply because since the last time I played Beyond All Reason, the balance has changed significantly, and this used to be the favorable position to come in and win here. That was because you didn't have these blockers in. You could just kind of rush over here with Dolphins immediately and shut down anything. It was very hard for the enemy to actually do anything. Actually, you rushed a destroyer. Not Dolphins, but then you'd mass up Dolphins afterwards. So essentially, we don't see that anymore. Instead, this is the prime position, and essentially what you'll see happen is this player goes crazy good and wins the sea quickly, and then they look to try and convert that into a victory as soon as they can, whether that be through seaplanes or whether that be through T3 in the form of like a flagship. You know, there's lots of different ways that you can do it. So it's our obligation to find a way to stop him. So let's ride on board. Oh, by the way, we've also got a pretty good Geo player that we're up against here, OS35. Oh, by the way, really bad wind today. Incredibly bad wind. 6.1. It's been like 3s and 4s all game. It's not been a pretty game for wind. I was kind of tempted to throw down a solar, but then I was like, you know what? I don't want to throw off the build. We'll just play by these rules. Anyway, first, Lazarus going to come out. Second one's going to pop out over the back. Third one going to be coming through as well. Remember, once we've got our Lazarus... Get off there. Once we've got our Lazarus on this back line, our energy's really going to start to look quite a bit better. So it doesn't really matter too much what the wind is, just because these guys are pulling 57 energy every single, or 58 energy right there, every single tick. So this guy is now going to be moving to the front, looking to try and pick up some rocks anywhere that he can. And you can see, at the moment, we've got that battle that's happening. We've got our best player on the front line. And so our goal here is just to try and stay towards the front, pick up any little bit of metal that we possibly can. Just keep our Lazarus nearby. We'll get him to reclaim these trees as well. And back towards the base, we've got the message, can I buy a T1 con? And the answer is, of course, happily yes, because that means that we get paid for this constructor bot for allowing him to come out and do the things that he does, and just allows us to not even need to reclaim him. And he overpays us a bit, which is always really nice. So we've now put down our blueprint. We're not always going to follow this blueprint 100%, but things like the nanos you definitely need to do. So you can see what I've done is I've put down the blueprint, and we're going to build over the top of them. So what we do is just grab these constructions and then go build over the top with a different constructor, and then that allows you to do that. You can also just use spacebar as well to bring it up in the queue. So here we're at 3 minutes 10. This is quite a late geo here. Normally we'd be looking at like a 240, 245. So everyone's running late today. And that's the other thing to remember is when you've got bad wind, it affects everyone, right? Except for the guy that goes titles. He's the smart one compared to the guy that goes wind, because titles are always going to be consistent. So Dirty Randy's going to be a little bit slow on his T2, and that is absolutely fine because, well, everybody's going to be slow. Over on the other side, Platinum Blonde doing his thing, also throwing down the storage, a couple of energy converters as well. We see 4 nanos going to be coming down here. He's only... Now, interesting to note, these 4 nanos will hit the Geo and these 2 mexes, but they won't hit this mex at the top. So we're essentially going to be up a mex in this situation because all of our nanos hit all the Geos, and that's part of the reason why I'm a really big fan of this layout. So yeah, it's incredibly important to do it. So let's now just right on board. We'll take a look at how we begin moving in from here. So I've gone and put the blueprint down and then realized, okay, it's probably not a bad idea. I think I might want to get a blueprint for these because you kind of want to treat these the same way that you treat wind, where you have 5 wind wide and you cut out the middle. It's the same thing here. I think you just want the con to run up the middle and then fill himself back in. In fact, you could probably just do it like a 2x2. Do we have room for that? We do, yeah, we do 2 right here and then 2 right there. Yeah, okay, that's what we're gonna do. Cool, we sorted it. So here we're reclaiming the bot lab, but because we need to send the metal off. I think I make a little bit of a mistake here. So I know that we need to donate over to Dirty Randy, but his T2's not up yet. So we can't donate to him because if we do, there's a chance that he overflows. And we don't want him to overflow because he needs all the metal that he can get. So we do need to be cautious about when we actually reclaim this lab. But the worst thing that you can do is overflow. So you can see now he's got the lab up. That means that we're able to pay him. And we're going to look to reclaim, but of course there's a little bit of a drop happening, an instigator up here, or they called an incisor now. In TA, that's what they were called. So I think I'm going to overflow like crazy here. I just overflowed like 500 metal. Don't do what I do. Don't do what Drongo does. And then we sent the metal afterwards. So we overflowed 500 metal to our team, and then we sent it. I was kind of wondering where all my metal was in this game. I guess that explains it. So yeah, so we were running a little bit behind schedule here. Ideally, we would have loved at about 5 minutes to have our constructor up, but that's okay. If we take a look over at the other side, you'll see that the T2 con is already here for Platinum Blonde. Okay, so he's got his guy in the back. I think these guys are actually dual duo queue, which is pretty smart, because one of the things I always tell my friends, like when they're playing League of Legends or something, like one of them will be up in the top lane and the other one will be support. And it's like, there's no point for you guys to duo together, because you're not going to interact with each other and assist each other. If you want to do it, you got to go like top and jungle or bot and support. Like, you got to have interaction together. And that's what these two are doing, because by doing this, it means that they're really able to guarantee that a certain strategy is going to get fulfilled. So you can see that over here on this side. This is a good timing here. 6 minutes he's got, whereas our T2 is still flying in. We actually had to drop down the metal storage. We were floating that much. We've been waiting so long, but that's okay. That's I guess maybe that's one of the little caveats that we could make, is just to make sure that if you've got good wind at the start, because bad wind affects everybody, including your tech player. But nonetheless, we continue, we move on, and we continue watching. But you can see just how strong this build is. You know, it's really a lot of people starting to do it. As I said, like, these guys are duo, so very intentionally he's saying, all right, let you feed me the early constructor, and then that way I can come online as Geo a lot earlier and have that big eco. Because as I said, remember, you're doing 2.3 metal on each of these versus 9.2. So you're talking almost 7 metal on each of these extra, which just means so many more units if you're able to get up and your opponent isn't. So here we've left the commander with 13 metal on him. We'll res him soon. And now we will look to get our third energy, or our third advanced metal extractor up online. Meanwhile, at the top, so keep in mind that this guy is the best player on the enemy team. He's OS 45, which is pretty good. It's relatively high, I'd say. It's higher than I've ever been, I'll say that much. So the expectation is that he's going to win water pretty quickly, right? I think for every OS difference between your opponent and in a lane, you can expect to win that lane by, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds faster. So we'll now put down that early warning tower, or early warning system. There you go. And then we can drop the T2 here with our old man, and you can see there's the commander. So we're calling him out. We know that the comm walk is going to be coming in shortly. His goal is to try and do as much damage as he can, as early as he can. If he's able to come in here and destroy us before 10 minutes, then that means no units out. And you can see we don't even have our T2 lab up yet, so this is going to be a little bit close. Good news is, though, we've got everything planned out. We had our metal stacked up from our metal storage, so things are absolutely fine here. Meanwhile, towards the front is holding, as you would expect. We've got our best player on the front, which is why I felt comfortable doing this in this situation here. It just makes sense in this circumstance to be able to do this. Unfortunately, wind wasn't cooperating, so it doesn't, you know, it's not that perfect 10-minute APHIS timing, but we do now start to see there's the advanced metal extractor coming up, and at 8-minute mark. So it's honestly, when you've got, I think, bad wind, it probably works out to be about a little bit faster than if you were to do this all yourself, if you were just to drop the lab. But otherwise, as we've seen on the other side, you can get it pretty quick. I think the record I've seen for the advanced Geo coming up is like 6 minutes, which is kind of crazy. I think that was Graceful that I was watching. Okay, so we've got the first of the snipers on the way. So I want to assist the front with snipers, just because I know that on the other side, it's likely that there's probably going to be, I don't know whether or not we actually scouted what he was playing, but I normally expect that it's going to be Mauser, Banisher, Quaker, something like that. And snipers do well against that. They also do quite well against, they'll do quite well against, oh, is that the commander? I think that's the commander. They'll do quite well against Starlights, just because you can cloak, and then as long as you've got a jammer nearby, you'll be able to get in and snipe them. As long as you keep them on hold fire. So here you can see the commander's coming in, so we need to take it out. But look at the positioning here on the snipers, just incredibly fortunate. So we just make sure that we stop production immediately, because we need to have energy in the bag. And then at this point, it's just no chance that he's going to be able to walk that comm. So that's a free commander for us. And it means that we've shut him down for the moment, right? Because in this spot, he's hoping that we come up, or that he comes up here and he deguns us, and it just takes us out of the game completely. So now that hasn't happened, it meant that we stay in the game. So what we're going to be doing is looking to support front, just get a couple of snipers out, get a radar, a jammer in as well, because we've got the energy to support that. And from here, this is where I haven't seen anybody do this before, so I said, you know what, I'm going to give it a try, because I think this makes sense. When it comes to scaling in Geo, I often, I got flamed the other day because I had an anti-nuke. Literally, there was a guy, he's like, I don't even have an anti-nuke, and you're out here buying anti-nukes? Because the front was losing. And I was like, is there a problem with me going for an anti-nuke? Anyway, so I was like, you know, it really feels all or nothing when you're going for a fusion. Either you have to, like, drop the fusion, or you just don't drop it at all. And if you're going to drop it, you got to reclaim lab, because otherwise there's just no point in keeping your lab up. It's 2,900 metal that you could just be putting in a fusion straight away. That's metal that you could be, you know, converting, or energy that you could be converting. So instead what we're going to do is we're just going to do a slow and steady scale, the same way that tech does this as well. Now, of course, you can only do this with armed constructors, or with like armed butlers, armed K-bots. You can't do this with armed vehicles or core vehicles, and that's just simply because of the butler. So I think this only works in this position, but once again, we're going to be looking to do that. And one of the key things to note is we want to actually overbuild on the energy converters, and that's because we are going to be transitioning into fusions later. So here towards the front, we've got a fat boy. We're going to be able to take him out with our snipers. A little bit of bad micro from me. I wasn't paying attention. My mistake. To be honest, I don't know what the correct play here. By the way, can we just talk about the 11-minute fusion on front? That is just mad respect, bro. I don't know how you managed to find or squeeze a way to do that, but you did. Well done. So at this stage now, like, front is stabilized, especially once we see this rattlesnake coming up. We know we're not going to have to make units. Or I shouldn't say make units. We know we're not going to have to worry about front for at least like 2, 3, 4 minutes. So because of that, we need to start thinking, okay, how is the enemy potentially going to win? What are their win cons? Well, we know who their best player is. We know it's the red guy. What is going on here? Why are we pinging like crazy? What? Please stop AFKing. Okay, it looks like we've got a little bit of bullying in the back line. Look, it's probably not the first time we've seen it. By the way, I don't know why I'm using 4 up here. Normally, I only use 3, and I guess that explains why I was missing 1 from here. Not sure what happened there. Yeah, so essentially, the goal for me is I want enough units up here that I feel like I'm contributing towards front, that it's okay. We're not looking to kill front right now. We're not looking to go all in and, you know, destroy it with starlights. And if the enemy was doing that, if we saw spam coming out from the enemies followed by starlights, then it would mean that we'd have to get units back in straight away. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're just going to go straight into an APHIS or into a fusion. No, what we're going to do is we're going to look to try and leverage our win condition, which is by taking out the enemy that is very, very good. That's the game plan for me. So we know that he's won water. You can see right now we're at 12 minutes in. He's completely secured water. We've got a couple of little things up here on the waterfront, but there's not really much. So we're going to send a couple more units towards the front, and then we're going to head into a special unit. One of my favorite units. Honestly, I love this unit so much because the strategy that I've devised here is basically to retake the top C. We want to do that. So normally there's something that happens here. Don't worry, we'll take him soon. And by the way, can I just say I am not ready to take this guy? Like, the amount of eco that I get from having this guy is ridiculous. Because DRM says, hey, Drongo, can you take this guy? That way, you know, you can kind of like attack C. So anyway, we end up taking him, and our economy just goes crazy because he's been idle for a bit. I was not paying attention. And our goal... Oh my, how do I turn off pings, dude? The Platinum Blonde absolutely likes to ping. He likes to ping. I gotta ignore that guy or something. That is crazy. I think like pinging like crazy is fine, but only if it's for a like if it's a raid or if it's something really, really urgent, then definitely like you can spam ping. Because I think everybody just kind of looks at it. I think we can actually turn the volume of pings down. Is there a way? Ping? No. Alert. Let's try volume. It's map point. There we go. Map mark point. There we go. We turned it down. Cool. So now the idea is to go into platypus. So one of the things that often happens with these like really good players is that they know that when it comes to the sea, there's like a couple different ways that you can do it, right? Like you could go for seaplanes, you can go for the T3 battleship, what's it called? The flagship, and then like park it in here. But a lot of the better players that I've noticed, they go for salamanders. Salamanders? I think they're called salamanders. They're basically, they will get they'll move up to front and they'll make an amphibious lab and they will just build like 8 or 9 nanos around it, and then they'll just look to try and walk into here and just kill these players really quickly. And so that's what I'm cautious of. So there's a timing that I'm looking for where basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be hitting his main base down here with platypus, and at the same time we're going to be hitting him with rolling bombs out over on this front, just in case, because what's going to happen is these units out here, we can't attack this front because he's got units, so we're going to try and bait him back with the pelicans. Platypus? They're called pelicans in TA. That's why it's there. So as soon as he sees these, he's going to realize, okay, I've got to come back, I've got to defend, otherwise I'm going to lose everything in here. And then what we're going to do is we'll hit him with the rolling bombs at the same time from the top. Meanwhile, our economy is scaling, right? Like, this still scratches my itch when it comes to scaling economy. If we think about it, right? Like, as an eco player, all I want to do is make APHIS. But I can't make APHIS, because if I make an APHIS, I have to reclaim my lab. But if I reclaim my lab, my teammate's going to get angry at me. So we're going to do this instead. Now, of course, we're taking up a lot of space here. I know. I'm sorry. We could look to do it here instead. But we are going to be building fusions there. So as soon as now we've come through here, naturally you're going to see a response. He probably should have come in a bit earlier. I don't know where that radar is. He probably forgot to build the radar, but you can see we're going to be picking it up. And what was it today? It was a seaplane platform. That's what he was going for. He was looking for a double seaplane platform. And we're able to come through here and just shut this down completely. So it means his win condition is now completely gone. Okay, he was able to do this, and we can see him now moving back on this front, which means that we can get the rolling bombs out over here as well. And these guys are great. One thing to note when you're doing the rolling bombs, very heavy on energy, very low on metal. So it means that you're gonna start stacking up your metal. And of course, as I said, like I'm just not prepared for 179 metal. We're also getting fed metal from Dark Green as well, just because we wanted to try and fight C. So yeah. It was problematic. So now we're going to split the Pelicans, or the Platypus. So do one group to the east, one group to the west. Look to try and shut him down over on this side, but at the same time, do as much damage as we can behind the scenes. Just be really annoying and be really frustrating to deal with. And so because of this, he's looking to come back, and we can see, and now we're trying to clear out that front, but then we realize, hey, there's nothing over here at all for us to kill because he was just going for seaplanes on the back instead of going for like an amphibious plant. And now we're completely shutting him down. So it's just really about closing, like identifying who the threat is and then shutting them down. Because I think before I was thinking, okay, you know, we want to try and help the lanes that are losing or take advantage of the lanes that are winning. And I think a bigger part of it is just identifying what's the enemy win condition, in this case, their best player, and then just doing everything that you can to make them have a bad day. I can't remember who was it that sung it. Daniel someone? Daniel... I can't remember. Daniel Pelter? I want to say? Something like that. He had a song about that. So anyway, like we're sitting on 14k metal, and I was like, Jesus, somebody help us here. 14k metal. I can't hold all this metal. So naturally, that's when we'll go into fusions from here. But I mean, at this point, you can essentially see how it's gone down. I think Pelicans are Platypus are an incredibly powerful unit from the Geo spot, but I don't think it's something that you can just do naked. So if we think about it right, like you want to help front, you want to provide assistance, you want to make sure that the front is not going to fall. And once you're in that position, then you're in that spot where you can go, okay, now I can flex. So we've lost the Pelicans out here, but we've still got them back over on this little spot. We've also got a couple up here that are just chilling out. He doesn't have advanced Geo just yet. And meanwhile, towards the front, we're just giving everything over to our blue ally. Any units that are the T1, and you can see we've now got a whole bunch of Zeuses. So my thinking here is that we're probably just going to want to try and get a push together towards the front. We want to try and keep doing like these attacks, and then at the same time look to try and get a push going towards the front. So just going with Sniper Welder, a really strong combo. The Welder's going to keep the snipers safe. The sniper's just going to take out that back line. So that's essentially it. And then meanwhile behind here, we're just trying to scale BP and energy as much as we can, because obviously, as I said, we weren't accounting for this much. We weren't accounting for this much metal. You can see it's quite a lot, right? We've got so we've got about 50 metal coming in from here, which is a huge amount that we weren't really expecting. Other than that, we got some rolling bombs out here. We've got the Platypus in the back. He's just going to try and do any damage. If we can get a hit onto these, because they're also tightly packed together, it would be significant. For some reason, I'm right-clicking these, but the target is over here. And I'm like right-clicking them, so I think I have to set target on these, and I couldn't get the two to chain. I'm trying to hit that one right there. Managed to get it, and then I knew if I hit one more that I would get the entire win field, but I was like, yeah, you know what? You win some, you lose some. So anyway, meanwhile, back towards the main base. We're just getting ready for that big attack, that big strike force that we're going to have coming through. We've got all of our fusions down, and you can see at this point, like, we're sitting at 208 metal. It's just like, because there's a part of me that wants to play this game the traditional way, where we haven't taken somebody, and then there's a part of me that's like, well, we have to, you know, when you got lemons, you got to make lemonade. And, well, when you got lemons, you got to make aphis. So that's the game plan here when we see this much. We might speed it up a bit here, because realistically, you don't need to know that much other than we make welders, we make snipers, we just chill out on the front here. We could probably use a little bit of spam, so we're going to add that in here. So mixing in Tix and Lazarus together. There's the aphis. And now towards the front, a whole bunch of Sheldons are going to be here to help out. Resign vote coming in from the enemy. Of course, they're not going to take it. And we'll continue pushing forward in. There's the spam to give us the line of sight for our snipers at the back. Our welders are here just to make sure that nothing is able to get through to the back line in the event that it does. But the snipers, you can see, they're just doing a wonderful job. We've got a little bit of a raid up here. We're going to cover it with the Platypus here and look to try and knock back any potential attack from the enemy. You can see that Seduceraphus is trying everything he can to get back into this game, and he knows that he's not going to be able to win it in a head-on battle. We've just got way too much stuff, way too much on the front. By the same token, it looks like on our south that we've got the sea that was won here, so I don't know exactly what happened to Platinum Blonde, but it looks like he may have, his Geo may have been caught unawares. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look at a pretty strong Geo strategy, and I really think that it's going to be the pair. The previous Geo strat that I did together with this one, you can see we've got the most resources. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of expected, right? Like, we took somebody. So, yeah, that's not really an appropriate brag. Yeah, I suspect that a build order like this is probably going to become almost meta, I would suspect. My main concern with it is just getting units to the front. If you've got enemy Mausers that are coming out at 4 minutes 30 and they're pushing down mid, responding to them with like a 7-minute sniper, it's going to be a bad time. I don't think it's going to work. The Mausers are just going to push too fast if there's a competent team. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one, and we'll catch you in the next one.